First thing I want to say is thank you to everybody in the audience, because you're here like me to learn and to get an education about what's next in our industry and how we can succeed in a challenging time as well as in good times. So thanks for being here and for supporting the conference, because all of this leads back to supporting our students. And we're very fortunate, feel very fortunate to be able to be in a position that this industry has provided for me and my family, to be able to give back, to try to help students experience our amazing industry in whatever category that may be. And all of the various companies that are here representing our industry in one form or another, either supplying us with services or technology or inventory, product management, and all of those various things, marketing, media, anything that has to do with our industry. You know, there are amazing jobs attached to that, and that's what we're all here for, and that is to learn from those experiences from you, from the experts, but also to help fund the future of these students who are going to be the future leaders of our industry. So that's a great privilege for us to be able to share this. What makes this conference, I think, particularly unique is the fact that we have over 450 of executives from the industry here with us today, but in addition to that, we have about 150 of our students who are here and are interested in being part of our industry in the future. And so to me, that's an exciting differentiator that we have versus any other conference that I'm aware of. So we had, in order to try to keep the momentum going, we had an event about 3 weeks ago in New York at the Marriott Marquis, and many of you were part of that event, and we're very proud to say it was focused on raising money, a dinner raising money for 2 organizations. Of course, our Lundgren Center here was an important part of that, and the other was the Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT, based in New York, and like University of Arizona, we attract a lot of students from those programs to work for our company and throughout the entire industry. And so we had a great dinner, a lot of fun, really fabulous people there, and I'm really lucky to have a lot of rich friends. So because we raised $4.6 million at that dinner, and so that was pretty awesome. And so after paying all of our expenses and the like and giving a big chunk of money to FIT, who helped organize that, we still had a little bit left over to give to the University of Arizona, so I'm happy to present this check for $2 million to our Lundgren Center. And we're obviously very, very proud of that.
Well, thank you so very much. It means the world to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You can. I'll get you a real one you can cash, but that one's that one's good. That one's good for the photographs. All right, so we're going to jump right in to our program, and we thought we'd kick it off by inviting a group of experts here. We happen to have the National Retail Federation had their board meeting here yesterday, which was not a coincidence. And I'm delighted to say that we've got members of that executive committee here with us. So I'm going to invite up Chris, Greg, Matt, and Mindy to come on up and join me. And we're going to have a conversation about what's in store and get a perspective from these experts who I'm going to allow to introduce themselves. All right? Thanks very much. Greg, why don't you start us off?
All right, Greg Sandfort, CEO of Tractor Supply. Many of you may not know what that company is, but there are a few stores here in Arizona. If you haven't looked us up on our website, or if you haven't visited one of our stores, you should. It's an interesting little concept, and what can I say? We're growing 100 stores a year, and we need people like you in our company.
And they sell a lot more than tractors, by the way. So it's a very interesting company, and Greg's done a great job leading that company. Mindy?
Hi, I'm Mindy Grossman, CEO of HSNi, and we're an interesting direct-to-consumer, content-driven portfolio of brands, which includes HSN, which is the television and digital networks, and we have 5 catalog businesses: Frontgate, Ballard Design, Garnet Hill, Grandin Road, and Improvements. Interesting for us, you know, today over 50% of our business is digital, over 25% of our business is mobile, but now we're getting into the physical retail business with both Frontgate and Ballard. And the way we think of all of that today is less about channels and more about where the customer is. So it's an exciting venture for us to believe that we can touch the customer in many different ways, no matter where they are.
Very good. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Matt Shay. I'm the president and CEO of the National Retail Federation. We're the trade association that represents the retail industry. We've got about 25,000 member companies, including all the folks up here on this stage and many of you out in the audience. We've got a staff of about 125, and our mission is to represent the industry both in terms of advocacy and regulatory issues, as well as to help them find solutions to the challenges they face in their businesses, like the incredible transformation taking place in retail at the moment. And in addition to that, we have a very robust program designed to help with workforce and talent issues, and the NRF Foundation has partnered with the University of Arizona, and many of you mentioned last night the Student Foundation, so we're very proud to be here. Terry is a past chairman of the board. Steve Sadoff is with us. He's a past chairman of the board. Mindy is the current chair of the board. Greg chairs the finance committee. Chris chairs the membership committee. So you've got a lot of really talented CEOs that are helping lead the industry. And there are a number of others that were here with us yesterday and are always helping us. So we're very grateful for that and happy to be here with you this morning.
My name is Chris Baldwin. I'm the president and CEO at BJ's Wholesale Club. And let me start by congratulating Terry and his family for this wonderful legacy building opportunity you've created for all these wonderful students here today. It's a real tribute.
Thank you.
BJ's Wholesale Club, like Tractor Supply, might not be familiar to many of you, but we operate 215 club stores up and down the East Coast of the United States. And unlike some of my compatriots here, we are private equity owned, not public. And these days, that's really great.
Sometimes.
In moments, nobody gets the best side of the trade all the time. But it's a real privilege to be here, and thank you.
And just to talk a little bit more on the National Retail Federation, what is unique about this trade organization is that they represent stores as large as Macy's and Walmart to stores that are single family owned for an individual specialty store location. And so when we go to Washington and have a point of view about certain subjects, which I'm going to ask Matt about in just a second here, we really represent a large percent of the jobs in America. And so that's what I think that National Retail Federation stands for and represents, and frankly does an extraordinarily good job for us. So let me start with you, Matt, with the first question. Raise your hand if you understand or know what BAT means. Okay, I'm seeing about maybe 25, 35% of the room. Okay, you all need to know what this is, and that's not a criticism. That's just saying this is a threat that's going on right now in our industry, a real one. And so, Matt, I want you to talk about what the border adjustment tax is, what it means, and what consequences this could have, and what's the National Retail Federation doing about it?
So the border adjustment tax is a proposal that's contained in the House Republican bill that would reform the tax code, and it would impose a 20% tax on all imports that came into the United States, whether those are in the retail industry, all kinds of things we sell in retail. Could be electronics, could be prescription drugs, could
automobiles,
be clothing, automobiles, petroleum.
Gas.
So virtually everything that comes into this country, and it affects industries far outside the retail industry. And from our perspective, it would be a real job killer. We've done a number of research pieces on this, and we've had a very aggressive campaign to educate members of Congress and their constituencies about the job-killing aspects and about the way in which this would negatively affect the industry, how it would drive up prices for consumers, how everything you buy would cost more money, and why we think it's bad for business, bad for the consumer economy, and bad for America. This bill is being promoted by Speaker Ryan and the chairman of the committee in the House that's going to write the tax bill. There seems not to be a lot of support for it in the United States Senate. It's very complicated. President Trump came out early this year and said, when I hear border adjustment, I don't like it. It sounds complicated. But this is something that we're very concerned about, that we have to be very vigilant about, and we need all of you to help us advocate for this and talk to people about why this is such a job-killing aspect. I would suggest, and you can do it at some point, just don't do it while Terry and the CEOs are talking. You could go on the internet and just Google BAT tax, B-A-T-T-A-X, or NRF, B-A-T, and there are a number of videos and other educational materials that we put on the website that'll, I think, give you a good sense of what we're up against with this proposal.
And so it's not just somebody that threw out this idea, let's just do this. It's intended to pay for other tax reductions that we're all looking for. So we'd like to reduce the corporate tax rate. We'd like to reduce individual tax rate for lower household incomes. And so they're looking for a way to pay for this. And this is just a bad way. So we agree with some of these other things for sure that they want to do, but paying for it this way, I think, would really damage the consumption business in America, which would ultimately eliminate a lot of jobs.
Yeah, and I guess I would just quickly add that when we have this conversation, we begin by saying there's not a more vocal supporter for tax reform and tax reduction than the retail industry. We pay the highest rates in the country of any industry, pay the full 35% corporate rate in many cases, and sometimes more than that. So we want tax reform, and we would like to see taxes simplified and reduced. But this is not the right way to do it, and there are other ways to do this, a more traditional approach that would broaden the base, go to a territorial system, let companies move offshore profits back into the U.S. There are other things we can do besides this. This is just the wrong approach, and we'd like to save the tax bill by making sure the House doesn't try to propose this and put it into the law.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, so Greg, I'm going to ask you, but anybody can jump in on this. So we are all, one of the things that I think I'm here to make sure I learn more about and learn from all of you is what can we do to improve the in-store shopping experience? So we're all excited, those of us who have big online businesses, like in my own case in our company, excited about that growth. It continues on. What do we? But still, at least in my category of business, 85% of everything that's sold in products that Macy's and Bloomingdale's sell are still sold in a bricks and mortar environment. How do we get that trend line back positive again? What is it about bringing some of this excitement that's online into the store that you're doing at Tractor Supply or about?
Well, I can only give you some insights as to what we find. Now, we have an unusual consumer base. They live outside large cities. They own property, large animals. They have a need for some light equipment. So they're different than a city dweller or even a suburbanite. But even they enjoy coming to the store. 4C just did a research project on us and said, you're one of the few retailers where your customers that we've asked still want to come to the store. Why is that? And I said, well, because we try to create a little theater inside the store. And this goes back to my days at Federated many years ago, where the store has to be interesting. The store today, though, has to be very efficient. It has to be a quick in and quick out. Customers don't have a lot of time. One of the things we just introduced about October of last year was BOPUS, Buy Online, Pick Up in Store. Now, you may think that's not a big deal, but for our customers who are making a 15 to 20 mile trip to get to our store, they want to know that what they're looking for or what they're planning to buy is there. And so by them having the opportunity to buy online and then come to the store and know that it's there and pick it up, we're finding that there's an attachment rate of about 20% more in sales that we can generate by them making that trip. So it's a way to kind of hook them and bring them into the store, and then we show them lots of new things. Even though we're a farm store, and you may think that's kind of boring, it's an interesting store because about a third of it changes out every year. And that's been one of the keys to us making that environment successful. So I think, Terry, I would say you have to keep some theater. You have to think about how the consumer's shifting their purchasing patterns and giving them the opportunities to engage with you. And we just launched a program. We kind of labeled it One Tractor, but it's one channel. There's not multiple channels anymore. The customer comes to you in many ways. You have to be able to offer that.
I totally agree with you, and everything you said. And the buy online, pick up in store is in our case is 25%. So yours is 20%. So when the customer comes into the store and actually sees the other products in the store, that radiated sales opportunity is huge. So
it's been interesting because we had to do a lot of work to now get into the retail business, put the right DNA in the company. And I remember challenging the team, we're not opening a store, we're opening a destination. What does that mean? What's the engagement? And what we did for Ballard was very different than what we did for Frontgate. And we can drive some of our own traffic because we've been a direct-to-consumer business, but how to make it a destination. So the entire center of the Ballard store is a design studio. There's thousands of ways to customize a chair. Every single sales associate is a designer. So people come in and they will stay for hours. They will design their own products. We have on-demand, right out in the open monogramming. So it's inspiring people to be their own decorators. So there's a reason for them to come. There's a reason for them to come for classes. So it's very different, whereas the Frontgate flagship, which is about 22,000 square feet, which is opening indoor space, outdoor space, atrium, wine bar, cafe, concierge service. So I think you have to think of how do you make it a destination, a community, how do you use theater, but how do you really understand what is going to excite your consumer?
Terry, in our company, we're working really hard to try and speed the pace at which we improve the convenience of the shopping experience. You know, it's interesting, in my career, I've seen the definition of convenience change more significantly than just about any other attribute a retail store can have. I used to be the CEO of a convenience store chain, and stopping for gasoline and picking up a Diet Coke and a bag of chips used to be convenient, and now it's something you can buy on your phone and get in an hour. That definition has continued to change, and we operate large club stores, and the trip isn't that convenient. And we are working really hard to use technology to eliminate cash registers and make the shopping experience around the club to be more convenient. But as I step back, the biggest thing I think we need to do is, as we look from the outside in at our company, it's our view that companies that can deliver at the combination of fresh and value can win. We have a right to win. And not just that we sell quite a bit of fresh food in our company. And our ability to offer fresh food to our consumers at a value really matters. But it also applies to other businesses. TJX is a terrific company, and I'm a big fan of looking at the outliers. You know, when the world has gone omni, TJX has done very well with essentially no website. But they do fresh and value incredibly well. So as I think about our company, the ability to deliver fresh and value in a convenient environment can be a game changer for us, and that's all about the store experience for our shoppers.
Absolutely, and I think what you're describing is you have to find ways that create the trip, because it's different than just, or it needs to be different than just the online experience, what you can get online. So, Mindy, your company starts with less physical stores. I know you're getting into physical stores now, but you start primarily with a non-physical store. So how is it different for you?
Well, I think the key for us, mobile is our flagship. It is the first device you look at in the morning. I think there was just a study that BCG did that said people would rather, 43% would rather give up their pet than give up their phone for a year, right? Think about that. They'd rather stop going out to dinner, and 37% would do without sex, so think about that. So we think of everything mobile first. Even though we have a huge content generation machine, which is our live television broadcast, which broadcasts in 90 million homes, live 24 hours a day, but we stream that in HD across all platforms. However, the future for us is what we're calling distributed commerce. And I think in today's world, all of us have to become platform agnostic and audience centric. Where are you reaching your customer? And in a world where ultimately you will be able to shop anywhere, whether it's a social site, a media site, or your own platforms, you have to be very, very diligent in what content you're putting where to reach what audience. Now, that's a great opportunity. So in our world, we have a content machine that's running 24 hours a day, but then we have a separate team, people from BuzzFeed or the Today Show or others, who are creating content that's more relevant digitally, because we know that most of our new customers are going to come through a mobile and digital platform. And we feel if they want to shop on Instagram or want to shop on Facebook, they're still becoming one of our customers. But it's a huge cultural shift within your organization, because for so many years we've incented everyone on getting the customer to come to a location or to come somewhere else. And today it's about being where they are. And that's a real fundamental core principle of everything that we're doing today.
Chris, let me ask you. So, for years we've depended on this strength of the boomer generation to purchase our products and broadly and do so in a way that we all understood. And now we're seeing this massive demographic shift where the millennial consumer and then the Gen Z consumer behind them are now going to be the biggest population by 2020, very diverse population, different population, buying habits are different. What adjustments do you and do we all have to make to be responsive to this new way of consumption that's happening?
Yeah, the answer, in my view, is we have to make more change than we are at all comfortable with. And in our company, we've worked really hard to do a better job serving the inner city customer. We see a lot of household formation in the East Coast of the United States and inner cities, and our ability to operate stores in places we never thought we could before is very, very different today than it was even 2 years ago. Our most productive club is within a couple hundred yards of Yankee Stadium. Club does $3 or $4 million a week, and in our view, the consumer will be increasingly urban, Hispanic, and informed. And as we need to meet the needs of an increasingly urban and Hispanic community, we're thinking about real estate very differently, but we're also thinking about how we assort our clubs very differently. So the ability to micro-assort a club based on a neighborhood and its ethnicity is a fundamental capability that we didn't have as little as 3 years ago. And there's a capability we haven't thought of yet that we'll have to build 2 years from now. So this simple thought of looking at our company from the outside in versus the inside out can change it. McDonald's, I think, has done a particularly good job of looking at their company from the outside in, and their work in digital has really started to change that very big company. And we're trying to adopt some of the thinking that companies like that have done, like your company, where you took an outside-in view and digital became a much bigger business than you get credit for, candidly. And we need to build capability at a rate faster than we're currently comfortable. But that's part of the joy of having the privilege to run these companies, because as they change, they can be more and more successful, and it builds on itself.
The speed factor becomes so critical. You know, we have this expression, agile is the new smart. So when we go to develop something or build something or change something, the thing that we keep asking is, can we change on top of change? Because you don't want to get out of a legacy system and find you've just built a new one. So, you know, the speed, factor becomes very important, and making your organization really comfortable with the pace of change. And that is the expectation, that it's just because we don't know what's coming next.
Speaking of not knowing what's coming next, technology is changing dramatically about the work we do inside of our operations, and machine learning is putting on a whole new layer of understanding. We used to outsource this work. We now have a full lead person in charge of consumer and data analytics reporting to the CEO, and it's such a big, important part of how we think about the consumer. And as Chris said, it's about individual consumers. It's no longer about your average consumer. It's about individuals. You got to be relevant on a local basis. How's machine learning and some of this new technology, Greg, going to change the way you do business?
Well, you may think we're a little farm store, but we spend a lot of money on technology every year. And my CIO, myself, and a core team really acknowledged that artificial intelligence was what was going to drive the business. We launched a program, and this was probably June of last year. It's cycled a full year here in June coming up, called Neighbors Club. Now, why do we call it that? It's a loyalty or I'll call it an affinity program, but its object was to capture information from the consumer, then have the systems behind the house analyze that information and help us understand where these customers are going, where they're moving, why they're buying what they're buying. And I'll give you an example. We've already found that through our own research and through the purchasing patterns of our equine customers, we have a very large equine business. 90% of them have dogs. So if we're noticing that they're not purchasing in our pet food category and they're only purchasing equine product from us, we now have an opportunity to talk to them in a very direct way about a new category of business. and we're already starting to test that and use that information. So the artificial intelligence component, we have a whole team of people now that we've put into place that we didn't have 2 years ago. And their jobs, and most of them are Vandy mathematicians, to be very honest, very smart young people who understand how to crunch numbers and look for these comparisons and these relationships between consumer buying patterns. And this is how we reach through Neighbors Club out to our consumers. Now, what's unique about Tractor, believe this or not, 51% of our sales come through the register in greenbacks, actual cash. So how do you track that customer? Not easy. So this is one of the reasons we had to get Neighbors Club into play, because we were losing that data. The customers typically don't want to be questioned when they come to the register. You know, can I have your phone number, your this or that and the other, your address or whatever? It was very cumbersome. So Neighbors Club is a way to get them involved. We get that information, and now we can start mining that information. So we're on the precipice of all this. I will tell you, initially it's looking very promising. Should be able to drive the business, but I can't say that it's going to give me the kind of comps I need today, but I think 6 months, a year down the road, 18 months, it's going to be quite exciting.
The personalization piece, to your point, is just so critical, and we've been, probably the biggest investments we've made over the last number of years has been in the systems, the tools, and the talent to be able to do that. We've been working very closely with IBM and their whole Watson team, and if you think about it, for HSM, what's going to be important, given the percent of our business that's done through a digital platform, we have to go from one broadcast or one communication to 96 million people to 96 million personalized experiences. And that's very different. And you know, we've had to build out a team because our ability to do that, not only do you keep the customer longer, because in our world, it's getting that first-time customer to become a second-time customer, and once she becomes a third-time customer, I have her for life. So it's very important that when we communicate, it's at a very personal level, because that's what people expect today. And the other thing that they expect is everyone today is your competitor. It's not just another retailer. If they had an experience on Uber or Airbnb, that's your new competitor. It's about that personalized experience, and the artificial intelligence, the learning, the data is table stakes today.
Terry, I think there's a real opportunity for the student and faculty here in the school to think about the future capabilities that companies like ours and others who we compete with will look for. There will always be a combination of art and science in retailing. We're tilting a little bit to science these days, and quantitative capability is something we're adding at incrementally faster rates than any other capability in our company. I wouldn't have thought 5 years ago we would be adding data scientists. But this personalization is really a quantitative challenge. And we look for our merchants to have advanced quantitative capabilities that we didn't think as much about as we did 4 or 5 years ago. It's emerged, and something for the faculty and students to consider as you build your own personal capabilities as a student, but also the future curriculum for students from a faculty perspective will be critically important.
Agree. So much, and it's, you know, we're all going to speculate about just what's in front of us, but I think Bill Gates said it best. He said we have a tendency when it comes to technology and, you know, advancements in technology to overestimate what we can do in the next 5 years, but grossly underestimate what will be done in the next 10 years. And I think that's actually a good way for us to frame this subject. But I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that a little later on. But, you know, with the students are on my mind, and because we spent a lot of time with them. I was on campus yesterday, and so was my CFO, Karen Hogue, was here speaking to the business school, and so we try to spend a lot of time just talking about to these young people about getting excited about our companies as careers, our industries as careers. But what about trying to attract them to come shop with you right now? These today, you know, and they're in their 20s, you know, they're starting to think about their careers. They're going to have some pocket change to spend. They're going to need some wardrobe changes, probably, I'm guessing. Not my students. My students look fabulous, by the way. But I saw some of the other students on campus. They need some help. And so what are we going to do, each of you, to including Matt, to tell us about your thoughts? what are we going to do to get them to shop with us? Matt, why don't you try to take that from a general perspective?
So I think, talking to all these retailers, but sitting in Washington, I guess sort of when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So looking at this from the policy perspective of what Washington can do, we had a political commentator named Ron Brownstein speak yesterday to the executive committee, CNN contributor and an Atlantic monthly writer. And one of the things that Ron talked about that many of us have observed and heard about, and I think it's been pretty well publicized, is that income in the United States per family has not grown since essentially in real terms since Bill Clinton was president.
And that's the first time.
That's the first time
that children have not had seen a future greater than their parents.
And I think that's got real implications because it impacts obviously spending ability and the strength of the consumer, although we know right now that the consumer economy appears to be very strong and consumer confidence has been high and debt is down and wages are increasing and unemployment is down. So, I mean, there are lots of positives, but there's this massive transformation in the way in which people spend, in the way in which their dollars get allocated. And so from the perspective of what things need to happen, we do need to get the economy growing again. We need to create more jobs. And as job growth has tailed off over the last few years from 2014, 15, 16, and this year, now we see 167,000 jobs per month. 3 years ago, that was 250,000. And so it's been decreasing, and that's got implications for all of us. And I think it really goes to what everyone up here has talked about is that experience of how you get someone in the store, whether you're meeting them where they are, whether it's distributed economy, or whether it's thinking about your real estate differently. And Shane and I were speaking a little bit earlier about if you go back 20 years and think that the legacy retail on the bricks and mortar side was that in terms of a football field or soccer pitch, the bricks and mortar guys were in one end zone and the online guys were in the other end zone, and that's the way the game got played 20 years ago. And now the game is being played somewhere closer to the middle of the field. And that combination of the way in which you deploy your resources and you structure your organization, bring in the right talent, I think all those things are going to combine, hopefully in a growing economy, to get people to spend and to shop.
Chris, how are you going to get people to come into BJ's that are this younger generation that are shopping differently than our parents or we were shopping?
I think Mindy said it best, this thought of distributed content and being prepared to deal with the consumer wherever they choose to deal with us is now table stakes. But the thing we've worked really hard on is being really clear on our targets. And we will tend to attract students like these as they start to form their families, and value becomes increasingly important. And our ability to be much more targeted around new family formation, that's when a club store becomes relevant. We're not that relevant to college kids. But when these folks go out and have their families and they figure out diapers and formula cost a lot of money and all the other things, and somehow one person in their family doesn't work anymore, money matters. And we can play a significant role in that regard. And the work we've done with companies like Procter & Gamble, where you're a director, to attract those newly formed families in urban settings has been a compelling marketing challenge for our company, and one we continue to try and get better at all the time.
I think it's really about understanding your brand and creating the greatest relevance depending on who you think that target audience is. So similar to you in our HSN business, our target entry point is really that millennial mom. Probably just had kids, doesn't have a lot of time, wants curated experiences. So that's different than our Grandin Road brand, for example, which we're really working a lot to almost relaunch it to new audience for first apartment, and making sure we have the right product. But how we communicate that in a digital world and with content is going to be very different. Another example of that is, we're in so many categories of business and not everything's created equal. The beauty business, for example, is an unbelievable business for a broad spectrum of audience. But how we target our audience digitally is very different than what we'll do on a television screen, and who are the influencers for them. So we now have partnered with the younger beauty influencers and the younger indie beauty brands, and we're creating all new content to use their social equity to bring us new audience. But then we have to make sure our subsequent communication to them is relevant so they want to stay as a customer. So now when we launch something from Too Faced, for example, we don't even launch it on TV first. We launch it on Instagram. So it's just changing the method of the communication, but then also determining what doesn't make sense.
Right, exactly. That whole editing process of clutter out of the way, particularly for this different audience, is going to be very important. So it's almost as important what you don't see as what you see. That's what I get from this younger generation, that we all, in my case, certainly have to do a better job of editing our offering.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, you know, I worked for Ralph Lauren for a long time, and the one thing he always said, it's more important what you learn to say no to than what you ultimately even say yes to for your brand.
Yep, exactly. Greg, anything from Tractor Supply?
Well, you know, I would say that we're a lifestyle retailer. So if you're not into the lifestyle, you probably won't shop with us. But if you are into the lifestyle, we do a lot with 4-H, FFA to kind of groom you as an individual through your life stages. And it's possible that when you're early family forming, you may drift away from us for a period of time because, remember, our customer owns property, they have some small equipment, and they have large animal. Not too many young couples are into that kind of business, you know, and they do those kinds of things. So we may lose you a bit there, but if you're into the lifestyle, you're into the lifestyle. So we play to that a lot. We spend a lot of money there. And then, of course, we do a lot of listening. How do you want the content from us? How do you want merchandise presented to you? How do you want to engage with us? And then we have to give that back to you in a way that is acceptable. And we're learning a lot right now about the do's and the don'ts, you know, what lines we have to draw and bifurcation of businesses and such, because it is very different. The millennial group, the baby boomers think very differently, they shop very differently. So it's a constant learning, but I think it's also one of the things we do is a lot of listening, and then we modify and test things to see what's working and where we can get the best result.
So let me now ask just one sort of wrap-up question for each of you. You're trying to imagine your business and its successful structure in the next. Let's don't even go for Bill Gates 5 years. Let's go for 3 years. 3 years from now, how does that business look? How is it changed? I'll tell you in my own case, and we've already made these adjustments. It's fewer physical stores because I think at least in our industry, there just simply has been too much real estate devoted to the retail business, and that was all fine until 2 years ago, because the incremental growth we were getting online was just that. Today, that business is it's not necessarily incremental, so we've had to make some adjustments, which we've made. But not just that, but inside our stores are going to change too. And so working with partners, again, to create more relevant experiences for consumers of products that we may not naturally sell, but we have the right to sell, or have more food experiences inside of our stores, just to keep our customers more satisfied and more time inside of the stores. Bringing big iconic events that our company's famous for, like right now we just finished the flower show. Well, it's fantastic, but it's only in 5 stores. How do we get it in 500 stores? How do we do a version of that that's both affordable, exciting, you know, and causes customers to say, hey, I'm going to go into Macy's for the flower show, and well, by the way, while I'm here, maybe I'll buy, you know, a lipstick or a dress. So that, I think those experiences all have to change, all have to improve, all have to get better. There's a lot of work being done on the store of the future, as we do every 5 years in our company. What's going to change in your companies?
Quite literally almost everything. And I think to Mindy's earlier point, the pace of change is a disquieting impact on people in our company, and our challenge is to make that more the norm. And it is our contention that our business will be more urban, more ethnic, and more informed. And in our view, given that we're a value retailer, an informed consumer is good for us. So our ability to communicate value in the most relevant way will be the biggest change in our company over a period of time, because to Mindy's earlier point, the message is the medium and the medium is the message. How we communicate is going to be very different going forward, and it'll have to be very relevant to the consumers we have the privilege to serve. But this thought about making our business more urban and more ethnic is a significant challenge for us, and one I think we're prepared to tackle. But we work hard on it every day.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I also think that this role of your chief marketing officer is changing very dramatically, and it's going to require new skills, different skills, and I know we found that, and that we're doing some really interesting things now in media that we hadn't thought about before, and we can't make these incremental changes anymore. We've got to make massive bets, big changes, and take some risk in that regard, because you got to, to your point, you've got to talk to individuals, not just generally speaking. Matt, what about industry?
Yeah, the NRF in the Washington, D.C. trade world is a pretty big association, $60 million, and it'll be one of the largest in Washington. And I think most trade associations don't think of themselves as organizations that go through a lot of disruption. They sort of provide the same services and benefits, mostly on the advocacy side, and they're able to just do that over time and maybe grow incrementally, but there's no huge transformation. And the whole other half of our business, besides the advocacy piece, is what we do in our programs, our services, our conference, our trade shows, our educational offerings, the way in which we engage our members. And so if we think about all of the companies represented up here today and with us at the program this week, as our customers, we have to transform ourselves to go where our customers are going. And so in addition to all the folks here, we represent Amazon and Overstock and Rent the Runway and Rue La La, and that whole other piece of the business, those legacy online folks that many people don't necessarily associate with retail because they're used to thinking of retail in bricks and mortar terms. And that has, I think, big implications for the way in which we tell the story about the retail industry, the jobs we create, the companies we represent, the services we provide, and the future of the industry. And as there have been some recent stories about job creation and some sort of right-sizing of real estate portfolios and some store closings and job losses, many people have focused on that piece of the story, which is only half the story, and not focused on the rest of the story, which is all these other things that are happening in other parts of retail. And I think that's a big opportunity for us, and the organization has to be structured to be able to tell that story.
Agree. Mindy?
I'd say there are two big things. I talked about distributed commerce before. So as a content retailer, ostensibly, we have to make sure that our content becomes targeted and ubiquitous at the same time, but it also has to be entertaining. So for example, all our personalities, like this month, Nashville is our overlay. So we launched Sheryl Crow with a concert, with the product, but we were able now to stream and distribute that content on other media platforms, and then ultimately we'll also be able to service the commerce on her platform. So it's about saying what's this 360-degree approach to how we're creating content, how we're creating product, and then how we're servicing the customer. The second big influence is going to be what I'm calling connected life. So if you think about it, by the year 2020, there will be 50 billion connected devices. There's about 25 billion today. So how are we using these technologies and really helping the consumer understand why it's going to create meaning for them? Which meant we've had to reorganize our entire merchandising organization. Because in the past, merchandising organizations have been in verticals. But today, if you want to talk to the consumer about the implications of technology in health and wellness, that could be in your beauty business, it could be in your home business, it could be in your fitness business. And you need to show the ecosystem of everything from a Fitbit to sleep to whatever that is. So I can see how we're trying to change that in creating microsites on our site, changing and giving ownership to people in the organization for holistic categories. And I could see that having a big impact on physical retail too, how you merchandise products in shops and stores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Greg?
We're a little different, I guess, in ways that we still have opportunity for physical space, physical stores out there. We're the only national retailer in our category. Doesn't mean we're any bit better or worse, but there is still opportunity for us. But we're not building larger stores. I've fought to keep the store small, tight, easy to maneuver, drop into different markets, and so on. But what's changing in our store is the use of mobile devices. And we have about 100 stores today they're totally mobile. You walk in, you don't have to go to the register to pay for your product. We can right there at the shelf. That device can do everything. It can update inventory, it can order product, it can give you information, we can ring a sale. So we're finding, because of the way our stores are laid out, we have an interior and we have an exterior side to our store. If we're selling propane out in the side lot or selling gates or corrals, you don't want the customer to have to make the trip back in, so you take the work out of it for them, make it easy. So that's one of the things. The other thing is the long tail of the business. Again, I'm trying to keep a tight store with about 18,000 SKUs, but I have availability now to you as a customer through a program we call Stockyard, which is really kind of a special order kiosk format that's available for you, and it's only in 80 stores today. It's going to several hundred here shortly, where you yourself can buy product, and it'll tell you when it'll be delivered. And we are pushing delivery from store to a number of categories, as well as online. I don't like the fact that it's free, but Amazon set the stage, and there's just no way around that. So our store is changing quite a bit. Technology is now driving the business. It's now a tool for our team members, and they're embracing it, which is good. But the consumer is also coming in with that cell phone going, where's this? You know, and I've got a comparison shop of 3 stores really match price, and of course we say yes. So it's very different, and the physical space will still be there. We'll still grow probably another 800 to 1,000 stores because there's marketplaces out there. Again, we're not fighting for real estate in a mall or in a urban environment. But I don't know. You know, that's today's plan. As it grows in 3 years, we may see that the e-com business and the buy online business, buy online pickup and store business starts to cross over more, and we may say, you know, store count needs to come down, and we need to spend a lot more money on those sides of the business. But I would say that it's going to be a real change for technology to make it easier to shop with us. 24/7 Tractor Supply, that's kind of the concept. Take the work out of it, make things available to our consumer, which today they have to drag a trailer or bring their truck. How do we get it to them easier, and so on and so forth? And those are all big changes, and they're all costly changes. And what we do a lot of is we test before we roll. We make sure we understand the cost implications.
In the meantime, you're in a good category. I'd stay there. Thank you all very much for your insights, and thanks for being part of our program. Thank you.